Yes, Kevin. Good evening. I hope you are well this evening. Here, by the names is Sally James, going to take you through geography, that is paper 1. We call it physical geography. Now, this physical geography has sections, and we have tried to give you the topical breakdown based on these sections. This physical geography is basically East Africa. It has section A, section B, and section C. Now, section A is basically map work and photo interpretation. Now, these two are basically what we call the redeemer, because this is where we can get all the 25 marks. Each number is marked out of 25. So all this is compulsory. Once you pass map work, 25 out of 25. You pass photo interpretation, 25 out of 25. There you'll have already started the journey of passing and getting a distinction 1. And probably if balanced, all the papers balanced, you are capable of getting an A. So in map work, the number of aspects that we shall go through, the same applies to photo interpretation. That is section A. Then for part of section B, we have what we call geomorphology. Now, this geomorphology has 3 questions set. Now, out of the 3 questions set, you are going to answer 1 question. Then section C has also 3 questions, and that is what we call climatology. That climatology has topics on soils, it has a topic on vegetation, it has a topic on climate. So out of the 3, you will also be required to answer 1. So when you total it up all, you come up with 4 questions in paper 1. 2 in section A, that is map work and photo interpretation, which are compulsory. Then you come to section B, geomorphology, where 3 questions are set, where you pick 1. Section C, 3 questions set, that is on climatology, 3 questions are set, you pick out 1. So it is very important that you get to know all these sections, and after knowing them, we shall be able to go through them. Now, why do we say that section A is the redeemer? When you look at section B and section C, this part is a bit, it is a part which requires you to be very, very critical, and then it needs you to be very systematic and organized. So they want you to bring out the real aspects. But when you look at section A, map work, this section A is basically practical work. For example, if you are asked to find a grid reference, you be precise and give the grid reference. If they are telling you to find a feature in such area, you be critical and give the physical feature. So in other words, in this part of section A, there is no meandering around. So once you get your 50 marks, if at all you have failed, you get 40 out of 50. That is still good enough. Then you come and add just marks on the other section B and section C. Because ideally section B is a bit hard, section C is equally a bit hard. So that's why we emphasize on section A and section E. Section A basically that is map work and photo interpretation. So we shall dwell more first of all on section A and section B, because once you get those 50 marks, at worst 40, then you are good to go. you'll just come and punch up on section B. Say you get 13 out of 25. Section C, you can get it maybe 15, 18. When you add up that, you get something like 65 to 70, and that's a very good grade in paper 1. Of course, you may find that in the whole country, the best person can get around 80. Okay, so that 80 is quite a good mark. Well, paper 1 is not a hard paper as people may think. I know you must have been told by some other people who have already failed it. Okay, I would say they have failed, because by the time somebody comes to tell you that is a hard paper, that means that person did not understand the concept well. But then the logic here is, once you pass this map work, then you have already started the journey and you are good to go. Okay, so as we start, we shall start with section A, and that section A will be map work and photo interpretation. But let me first take you through what this map work is all about. Like I said earlier on, we shall start with the grid reference. Now this grid reference is going to be very I know you already have the idea of it in O level, so it's not something which is hard. We shall also look at identifying physical features on a map. That is, when you are given a grid reference, they can ask you to find physical features. The other way around, they can give you the physical feature to read a grid reference. So those are already 2 marks that you have got out of 25. Now you'll be looking for the other balance. Then we shall also be looking at what we call the intervisibility. Now here we shall be determining how one area looks like from another area. That is basically intervisibility. We shall also be looking at direction. After direction, we also look at bearing. We shall also have bearing in part of that, because direction goes hand in hand with bearing. Besides that, we shall look at physiographic regions. Now the physiographic regions here, we basically look at how the relief looks like. And when you look at the physiographic regions, we are basically looking at these places in a bigger perspective. Unlike physiographic features, those ones which I'll be looking at a very narrow angle. But when you talk of regions, we are looking at them in wider areas. Besides that, we shall also be taking you through measurements. That's now where we are going to calculate, say for example, the distance, assuming we are given a road to measure or to calculate. We shall also be looking at that. You can see now these are all things that we did in O level. It is just we're just trying to remind ourselves there is no big difference with what we handled in O level. Then we shall also be having calculation skills. Now this is where we shall be calculating the area, assuming you are given area of maybe a forest, a lake, and so forth to calculate. We shall be looking at that and many others. The other aspect that we shall be handling is the drawings. Among the drawings, we shall look at the cross section, which cross section will involve us to look at 2 places. Ideally, when you look at the cross section, you are supposed to be moving in a straight line, but of course, because of the obstacles, you may not be able to move in a straight line. So that's why you find that there are those other depressions and so forth, because we're trying to avoid that. So that is a cross section. We shall also be looking at a vertical exaggeration, because out of now that cross section, you will draw it and show us how the land looks like when you're underground. But now they will also ask us to calculate what we call vertical exaggeration. Now vertical exaggeration is simply the number of times the cross section has been exaggerated. So we shall look at the formula, and that is, we shall look at it as horizontal scale over the vertical scale. Then we shall get how many times the cross section has been over exaggerated. Another sketch that we shall look at is drawing a sketch map. Now this sketch map here, it is basically trying to show how the area is. They will give you a sketch map of maybe a place, rather a map extract of a place. Then they will tell you to draw a sketch map. Now in that sketch map, you'll be told what to indicate. So we are going to follow the way the question has been asked. We are not going to set our own questions. We shall rely on what the examiner has told us. If you say that draw a sketch map of the area, assuming you are given a map extract of maybe Nyarweyo, you might be having a sketch map of Masindi, you might be having a sketch map of wherever that they will bring, and they say that draw a sketch map and on it mark and name 1, drainage features, transport routes, and maybe any other thing. So that is basically what you shall put. So out of all that, we need to have qualities of a good map, and one of them is a title. You are going to tell us the title of that map that you have drawn. For example, you say that a sketch map of Masindi. So you are going to mention the name of the map that you are drawing. What does it show? It is showing physical features, showing land use types, and many others. So you will get the title from the question. Then the other sketch that we shall also look at is reducing a map. Now, when you are reducing a map, they will give you a scale factor. Now, what is a scale factor? A scale factor is the number of times that this map is being reduced. Say, for example, they will say reduce a map of Masindi 2 times, meaning that you are going to have that map reduced 2 times. That one we are going to see. Now, that is what we call a reducing factor or a scale factor, such that when you reduce that map 2 times, you'll have now got an outline, a frame that you are going to use to have the features drawn. Now, how are you going to reduce that map? There are 2-3 ways that they can ask us to reduce the map. 1, they can tell us to reduce this map using a fraction. Then 2, they can also ask us to reduce a map given a whole number. Say, for example, 2. A fraction could be 2.5. Then the 3rd way they can also ask us to reduce a map is by giving us a percentage. Say, for example, 50%. So they can say reduce a map of Masindi by 50%. And of course, 50% simply means 50 out of 100. And then the last sketch that we shall also look at is enlarging a map. Now, when it comes to enlarge, you are not going to enlarge the whole map because you'll be given a full map. Now, to enlarge means that they will give you a smaller part to increase, just like you are given a whole map to reduce. For the case of enlarging, they just give you something small, then they tell you that enlarge or increase this area. Still, when you're enlarging, they will give you a scale factor. A scale factor will say that the number of times that they will ask you to enlarge that map. If it is 2, you will enlarge it by 2. If it is 3, you enlarge it by 3. So we just go by the question as it has been asked. Then the other one is also tracing a sketch. So in any case, they can bring a map extract. Then examiner might be interested in some particular features, and among those features may find that there are maybe there's relief, there's drainage, there's vegetation. So they will tell you to use a tracing paper. Then you pick only that part that the examiner is interested at. So that is basically what we need to look at when it comes to sketches. The other aspect that we are going to look at is settlements. Now, when you look at settlements here, we shall be basically looking at how man is living on the earth. So we shall be looking at what is involved And among the settlement patterns we shall look at is linear settlement. We shall look at scatter type of settlement. We shall look at clustered settlement, and then we shall also look at what we call grid settlement. Then we shall look at a description of relief, because we are saying that relief is the general appearance of the landscape. So we are going to describe how relief is. If we are seeing a hill, we shall say that there is a hill, then we give a name of the hill. If we are seeing that there is a plateau, we shall give the plateau and give the name of the plateau. If we are saying that there is a steep slope somewhere, we mention that there is a steep slope on this hill, and so forth. Then besides describing relief, we shall also be describing drainage and vegetation. So what is drainage? These are sources of water. So we shall be looking at where water is mainly good. So these sources might be in form of a river, could be lakes, could be swamps, could be ponds, dams, and so forth. Equally, vegetation, we shall look at it in terms of trees, a thicket, a scrub, name them. So all those ones we shall go through. Then we shall also now look at the relationships. Now in these relationships, we shall be looking at how one aspect is affecting the other. For example, if I've looked at relief in terms of gentle slopes, steep slopes, ridges, plateaus, and all that, you find out that we shall now relate it with, say for example, drainage. And what are we talking about here? We are looking at now drainage in terms of rivers, in terms of lakes, in terms of dams, and all that. So we shall see how is relief affecting this drainage. So you may find out that on the lowland, you find out there is a swamp. So we are giving that relationship, and when we are giving this relationship, we are interested in giving accountability. Now accountability simply means, why is that aspect there? Why is it there? So we are giving reasons. For example, if we say that a lake is on the lowland, why is it there on the lowland? Because we know that water flows from a high elevation to a low elevation. So there is no way out water can start climbing a hill. Say for example, water flowing from a lowland to an upper slope, that is equally impossible. So those are not the relationships we are going to look at. But above all, as we are looking at these relationships, we dwell so much on accountability. We give reasons why it is happening the way it happens. We shall also talk about economic activities. Now these are activities that take place on land, and when we look at economic activities, we're interested in seeing the economic activity. As we see the economic activity, we also need to give evidence of that activity. And as you give the evidence of that activity, tell us where is it on the map you are talking about. So with the map work, we are not going to assume everything you are going to talk about must be got from the map that you are given. If you are given a map of Masindi and you are talking about economic activities, you are going to tell us that there is a coffee growing. Now we are not going to assume where is that coffee growing. You are going to tell us from the map you are given. Those places where coffee is, you'll be seen on the photo. So you tell us that coffee growing in this area, this direction. So again, in economic activities, we emphasize on place names and then the direction where those activities are found. I've already talked about settlement, where we are going to look at different aspects or different types of settlement. Like I've said, we shall look at linear settlement. That is settlement which follows a particular direction. Say for example, the road. You see a road running through, you'll find people settled along the roads. That is what we call linear settlement. We shall also have what we call clustered or grouped or nucleated type of settlement. Now this is a settlement which is concentrated in a particular place. Now why is it within a particular place? There could be economic activity that has attracted people there. Why are people in that particular place? Say maybe there is a ginnery, maybe there is an industry, maybe there is a police post, so people are there for security purposes. Maybe it is an urban center, so there are so many services running place or taking place there. There are schools, there are hospitals, there are industries, and ministries. So those activities now tend to attract people. So you find that people are just within a particular area. Then we shall also look at the scattered type of settlement. Now scattered is just now opposite of a clustered, because people will be far apart. The settlement patterns or the settlement will be far apart from one another. Why? There could be also reasons why are people few in that area. Maybe there are risks. Say for example, if area is flooded, or if the area is flooding, people cannot risk their lives being there. That place might be out of bounds, so people have been restricted from settling there. So people cannot force themselves there. So you find out that there will be that type of settlement. People are far, the patterns or the houses for that case are far from one another. Then finally, the fourth type of settlement we are going to look at is grid settlement, or what we call planned settlement. Now with the planned settlement here, this is where we have permanent houses built. Say for example, in urban center, that place is well planned, it's well organized, so they can have permanent type of buildings, unlike scattered type where you have mainly the rural setting where you have semi-permanent houses built. Okay, then the other aspect we shall look at is the problems facing people living in that area. You are living, say for example, in Masindi, and in Masindi you are living near a swamp. Are there some threats that you are most likely to face when you live near the swamp? Yes. You may find that that swamp has water. Now that water may act as a breeding ground for disease-causing vectors. So there you may find that you have mosquitoes breeding there. So when you have mosquitoes breeding there, they may end up transmitting malaria to people around. So that one becomes a problem. But transmitting malaria may not be a problem. But what does it cause after? So we look at the effect. What does it cause? So it may affect, if say for example malaria is treated and one does not get cured, you end up dying. So when you're looking at the problems, we are interested in knowing the problem, give us the effect of that problem, give us the evidence of that problem and where it is. Okay, then we also look at the drainage patterns. Now on that map you might have so many features. You can have rocks, you can have hills, water bodies and all that. So now the drainage features may find the drainage patterns that we are talking about is how water in various areas is flowing. For example, you may find that there is a river originating on a mountain, so that is what we call radial drainage pattern. So that water is flowing in all directions because it is coming from the highland, so it is flowing downwards, and many others. We shall look at them when we get that. Then economic importance. Now the economic importance here, we are just looking at how those activities are more important to the people who are living in the area. So that is basically what we are going to talk about, and that is what we shall be interested in. Then now when you get to section B, okay, still section A on map, rather on photo interpretation. This photo interpretation, we are going to look at the types of photographs. We are going to identify the features on those photographs. We are going to look at relief features. We are going to look at relationships between relief and vegetation. We are also interested in naming the places where the photos could have been taken from. because that is always the last question asked. So what does this mean? You must have a wider knowledge of where these photos are found. So with the photograph here, it is basically set from section B and C. There is no photo that will come, or you can't expect to have photos from space, but they will always be set from section B and section C. Say for example, in section B you are going to study about rocks, so they can set a photo concerning rocks. You are going to talk about coastal geomorphology, they can set a photo about coastal geomorphology. We are going to study about climate, they can set a photo concerning climate, and so forth. So these photos will basically come from section B and C as we shall handle them. But what is key here, or what is important here, we get to know what these questions, or how these questions are set, such that we first get the idea. Then as we cover the other section B and C, we shall just now do a bit of revision. Then we also give reasons for supporting our what? Our answer. So that's basically what we need to do there. Then as we go to section B, just like I said earlier on, section B, we're going to start by looking at the breakdown. Okay, we're going to look at the breakdown of section B, and then we shall look at those topics as we're going to look at them. Then section C, we shall also look at those topics as we'll put them down. Then after that, we shall now get started. So as per now, I just wanted to take you through what we're going to handle, and now we are going to start with map work. Then after map work, we shall get started with the photographic interpretation. Once we are done with that, then at least we shall be sure that we're already a step ahead. So as per now, I would like to end there, and I want to wish you a good evening. I think tomorrow or the next day we shall start with the map work.